Just assume everything I'm saying that's smart, somebody else said first, and everything I say today that's dumb, that's me. What part of this is like the actual article? What are we really trying to do here? Is this just more noise? We're repurposing stuff that doesn't have a purpose to begin with. We're gonna create a category. Boom, people want a listicle, that's what they want. And then my brain went, Brendan, nobody wants a listicle, ever. Nobody wants that. If I do a podcast interview and it's arguably not great, should I split it into 50 clips and create a blog post and send out 12 emails about it? Probably not. If your whole content strategy has come out of some like SEMrush keywords, like we've lost the plot. I don't know who gave this tip out that we got to start with a stat. Always with the freaking stat. How did we get here?
Hey, what's up? You're tuned into The Cutting Room, the show where we talk to industry-leading marketing professionals about their content marketing philosophy, process, and pregame before they edit an article live. I'm your host, Tommy Walker, and thank you so much for joining us today. My guest today is Brendan Hufford. He is the founder of Growth Sprint, and before that, he was at Active Campaign, and he's had clients like Allstate, Betterment, Bill.com, and a lot more. And I'm really excited about this conversation because a lot of the focus, what we've talked about in the pre-call, is around content as an IP. I think we all look at content as sometimes it's really easy to forget that content is not a commodity, and it is something that can be, in fact, a little bit more branded, a little bit more personal, a little bit something that is totally unique. But the question is how do we develop this stuff? How do we create something that really resonates with people and really treat it like an intellectual property and less like a piece of content? So this is one of the main reasons I'm really excited about this conversation. Before we jump into it, I do want to say thank you to our sponsor, Content Harmony. They are a brief writing tool, absolutely amazing. We'll take a look at that in the halfway point here, but it has saved me at least 2 to 4 hours per brief that I write, and has consolidated 4 of my most commonly used tools. Absolutely brilliant tool. Highly recommend you check it out. If you do, go to thecontentstudio.com/harmony. You get 2 free months of credits, and you can help support the channel and help us out. All right, without any further ado, let's bring Brendan onto the show. All right, Brendan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tommy. I'm excited.
No problem. And we're going to just jump straight in. Tell me about your content marketing philosophy and how has it evolved over time?
Yeah, let's talk about where it's come from, and then maybe we can talk about where it is today. So I came up in the what I'd call like the online marketing world, which is different than like the digital marketing world. Digital marketing is like adults doing adult things for businesses. Online marketing is like, here's a webinar about how to do webinars and like podcasts about it's not like Tai Lopez-y type of stuff, right? Ads about how to run ads and stuff. It's bad. But I came up in that world. So like breaking out of that world of like, oh, there's like content that's actually helpful for people. It's not just like click funnels and like trying to like, get the cash as quick as you can and upsells, downsells and all that madness. Like I got more into this bigger world of like, there is a quality standard that we can hold ourselves to. And I think that was really interesting. I have had the fortune of working with a lot of really good editors over time and people who have pushed my work. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a couple examples. I had the privilege of, I reached out to, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, Ramit Sethi's company. Said I wanted to write an article for them about this thing I was doing, right? I had figured out, I was running an e-commerce business at the time. It was really interesting. I'd figured out imports and exports. I had the chance to work with Sean Blanda when he was there. He since went on to work at Envision and a couple other places, and he's one of the best editors. He was the first one. We wrote this big, long article. It was like 6,000 words long. And he was like, hey, you're also, fun fact, we wrote it over the course of like a year. Like it took us a year to write this. I had some personal stuff happen in my life. He had some personal stuff happen in his life, but we kept it going. It was really cool. You can literally see like it was like March to March. You can see the emails back and forth to us. I have screenshots that are really cool. But like we worked on this and he was like, you're going to kill me. But this 2-paragraph section here, this is the actual interesting part. This is the whole article. Can we make this the article? And that was the first time somebody like really pushed me on writing. That
Yeah.
was the first time I would ever say in my, like, I had put out a lot of content up until that point. That was the first time I ever felt like I got like truly edited by a professional editor.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, he's since gone on to like Crossbeam, and he's doing great stuff there now. I had the chance to work with Benjamin Elias when I was at Active Campaign. Two of us at Active Campaign, myself and Lauren Minning, both had documents of his edits were so thoughtful that we didn't want to just click accept and have it disappear into the ether forever. So we would copy and paste his like, it was like some like real like Anne Lamott bird by bird stuff in the just in the side of a Google Doc, and we're like, Benjamin, this is like wasted on us. It's brilliant. So we both had those. And then I've also gotten to work with Jay Acunzo, who's also been on the show, right? So I have like little tiny like Sean in my brain going, what part of this is like the actual article? I have tiny Benjamin going like, what are we really trying to do here? And then,
Yep.
I have tiny Jay Acunzo being like, is this just more noise? Like, is this actually valuable? Right. And that sort of stuff, like having these tiny voices that have come from just a large body of work. I've made a ton of content over the years, video, podcasts, written, a really prolific amount. Most of it arguably very mid, but like some of it's really good, and I'm really proud of some of it. And a lot of that has come from working with great people. So that's like how we got here. I think today maybe there's like three pieces to if I had to put together a content marketing philosophy, right? The first is taking content out of a silo. Content has to, especially if we're talking about doing things for businesses or whatever, like it has to do more than one thing for the business. Content that only gets traffic from SEO, and we're like, we don't want to email that to people. They shouldn't be reading it. We don't want to like link to it on social. It feels weird. Like anything that only does one thing, I don't know if it's great. Now, there's a lot of stuff we make that isn't, I wouldn't necessarily consider content that does like one thing really well. But if you're creating true content, it has to do more than one thing for the business. The more things it can do, the better. If you have a piece of content or a content series that does 5, 6, 7 things for the business, that's where you get into a really cool space. That's where your work becomes really valuable.
I'm going to jump in there. Like, what types of things are you thinking about for what it might do for the business?
Yes. So I think it's really easy to get tactical and be like, it's a podcast or it's a what, like, it's not the tactics of it, and like what type of content matters less. What matters more is exactly the question you asked. Like, what can it do? So if I can repurpose this other places, that's a thing it can do for the business. It can expand reach, right? If this is something sales enablement, sales teams can use to close deals, and it has that level of resonance with a buyer where after they read this, they feel more comfortable continuing or starting the sales process, that's super important. If it can pull traffic from multiple channels, like, right, if I can take this piece of content, and it could be through repurposing or whatever, it can do that. If it's driving conversions, if it's, I'm trying to think of like a couple others. But like, if it expands, like if it helps us like raise funding, like whatever thing the business needs to do to like keep growing, if it attracts a pipeline of talent, if it's so good at attracting. So I think Animals was really good at this for a long time, of like the content that like specifically Jimmy Daly was putting out. People were not only like, this is really cool and smart, it helps me do my job, it does all these things, but they're also like, I want to work there. Like I want to work at the place that makes this, right? And now you have a talent pipeline. You're trying to acquire customers, but it's so good that it now is building a talent pipeline. Like that's really interesting, right? That sort of stuff where it's like, how many things can this do? Because I think early on, I tried to make a lot of decisions based on like, are you familiar with like the Eisenhower boxes that like for how urgent and how important?
No.
So the Eisenhower boxes, if you imagine like a quadrant of like urgency is on one side and importance is on the other. Like if it's both urgent and important, do it now. And it like helps you delegate. But you're like, my then next question was, how do I know what's important? Everything feels important. Urgent, I can kind of figure out, but like everything feels important. What's actually important, what we should focus on, are things that do more than one thing. That was like a really healthy, like just nuance that changed how I thought about that stuff. And then I apply that to content as well, right? Like what do we pursue and how do we do it? The more things we can get, and I don't mean like more things we can get this to do because we're repurposing it everywhere. I think it's a huge mistake a lot of companies make. They take something that doesn't resonate and is crappy, and then they repurpose it everywhere. I'm like, you guys literally Stop. Like,
Just
it doesn't need
spreading crap
content
around.
distribution and content repurposing is a terrible idea for most companies because their stuff sucks. And I say that as like my stuff sucks, right? If I do a podcast interview and it's arguably not great, should I split it into 50 clips and create a blog post and send out 12 emails about it? Like, probably not. Just let it be the podcast. You know what I mean? Like, we're repurposing stuff that doesn't have a purpose to begin with. That's a good one.
Yep.
That's a good way to phrase it.
That's a quote. We're gonna put that right in the trailer.
Good. We did
it. All right. So you said 3, kind of revolved around 3 different areas. Yeah. I kind of cut you off or took us on a different trail on number 1.
Content out of the silo.
But let's keep going.
Yep. Second one is it has to be customer centric. This is a very easy thing to say, a very hard thing to do. Everybody says talk to customers. All over LinkedIn, all over Twitter. Oh no, we're customer centric. Talk to customers. Talk to customers. Everybody says that, and then everybody is left with like, how do I talk to customers? Like, what do I do? How do I do this? And I think that's a really important part of like content marketing that we leave out is like how to actually talk to customers and like tactically, how do we do it? Like Benjamin at Active Campaign, I think all the emails for a long time had a like Calendly link in the footer. And he just had like one slot open every day to talk to a customer. And people would just book him out.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It was wild. I mean, I might be like misremembering the story, but like he just basically had a Calendly link and like people would get that and he would just constantly be talking to customers. And like that just informed. And you saw that when he went to Podia, he shared a lot of like really cool stuff that he learned of all these uses of the product that he never would have thought of because he talked to them. And it's not just like, so there's a systems of like, how do I start these conversations? And then like, what do I say on these things? Right. Like it's very, and again, like that's left out. You're just like, talk to them, just talk to them. Well, I think arguably interviewing, you would probably agree. Interviewing is a skill. It's hard. Oh yeah. You have to learn a lot of things, like even simple stuff like the, Chris Voss never split the difference, like just mirroring people. I do it now. Benjamin used to do it to me, and then once I learned what it was, I was like, "Are you mirroring me? Stop it!" Like just repeating somebody's phrase back to them. Like if I said, "You're mirroring me," and you just went mirroring you, like I will now expand on that and tell more. It's better than being like a 5-year-old and just being like, "Why? There's ways to get layers deeper, and that stuff is really valuable. You get past these like I call them like phantom pain points of like people are like, oh, this is the thing I care about. And you're like, cool, I'm a marketer. That's the thing you care about. That's all we talk about now. It's a great start. But like the presenting, just like any good physician is like the presenting problem is often not the problem. My neck hurts because my like, my calves are too tight. Like that's a real thing that can happen. So they have to like diagnose and figure that out. And I think we do too, as marketers, we have to be, again, what Jay would call like explorers, right? And my friend John Bedini would call like journalists, Yep.
Yeah. What I think is interesting about that, because when I was at Shopify, right now I always talk about my experiences at Shopify, but when I was at Shopify, one of the things that we had were I wanted to take a different approach with our case studies, right? Because it was the traditional case studies, company X works with company Y and sees Z results. And I said, nope, I want to do this more like a Rolling Stone interview, right? And the person who I had doing those interviews was a journalist in their previous life. They had won awards for their journalism and everything. And what we had learned from those, taking that approach, right? We had seen and learned more about the problems that they had that could then fuel the rest of our strategy, rather than just, hey, tell us how awesome we are and how you came to, get to know us and all of that. Like, there was this like inherent idea of, okay, yeah. Like I'm on the website, I see case studies, I see testimonials. Of course, I'm biased. Like I already know you bought the thing just because you're there. But what I always wanted to know was what led up to that problem, right? Because it's always problem, agitation, solution, right? But I wanted to know what led up to the problem. And we had some really, really great stories. We learned that people started their business as like a big FU to their bullies. We had learned that, somebody was doing drugs in the warehouse, and we were learning all of these different things and what it took to manage a business and like the real problems that were being had, and we could feel that all over the place. And it just, we would never have gotten that information if we had taken this approach of, hey, tell me about how awesome we are. So,
Totally.
um,
Yeah, I think my friend
the
Catherine is like she ran a company and sold it recently called Best Self, and she tells stories of like
yep,
embezzlement and like her original co-founder, like they had a breakup and that was a nightmare. You get into these stories and you're like, oh,
yeah,
that's what the audience wants that. Like that's
yeah,
the story. It's not like how I grew, my company to X dollars or percentage. Like that's cool too. Like nobody wants to like read a case
yep,
study about somebody who like isn't doing great, but those stories are really interesting.
yeah. Well, and it's like, look at how awesome we are, right? Like that's the thing is it's a lot of puffery if you're not taking a real customer centric approach. Now, I'm gonna push on you a little bit on that because it is a phrase that's bastardized, right? What does that really mean to you?
Okay.
What does real customer centricity mean?
Okay, I'm so glad you're like reading my mind. This is a thing I was actually talking to somebody the other day about this of like I want to figure out like when did we start using because it was like all the rage in my world of like B2B SaaS and software for a long
Mm-hmm.
time. Everybody was like we're customer centric. It's all customer centric. It's everybody's keynote for like years. And like recently a friend was sharing they were trying to get out of their Zoom Info contract and
Yep.
Zoom Info was like, screw you. There's like 2 minutes on a Tuesday where you can call us and cancel, but outside of that, it's auto renew forever, right? And I just thought to myself, like,
Yeah.
and then like the rep is like rude and mean to the person, and I'm like, how did we get here? Like Zoom Info is a company that people hold up as like, this is a great look at their
Right.
revenue and all this stuff. And I'm like, but that's how they get there. They treat people like this. And it's like, how did we get here? And it took me back to like, this is something like it's really important in my work is like being more of it. And I want to caveat here. I feel name droppy sometimes. I just like really like citing my sources. I would be so pissed if I was like Jay Akunzo and like his words are coming out of my mouth and I'm not like, this is just assume everything I'm
Yeah.
saying that's smart, somebody else said first. And everything I say today that's dumb, that's me. Okay. Can we move on? I won't have to cite my sources.
Let's do it.
Great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I
so
got
anyways,
you.
like it's really important to me, like being an explorer and thinking about that. Like we can get into the tactics, and this is also a good lesson for creating content. Creating that like how-to content, that like lower, like it's great if that's who your buyer is and that's who you want to appeal to. But specifically myself and
Yeah.
others, like we want to appeal to directors, managers, executives, etc. And we have to ask those bigger questions of like, what does customer-centric mean? And where did it come from? When did
Yeah.
we first use that? Like, when do we see that come up? So I'm like Googling and I'm looking for like the first articles in tech that are saying the phrase customer centric. And I'm taking this like very exploration kind of, view of it. Um, so I'm kind of in the middle of that, which is wild that we're talking about this today unprompted. I'm in the middle of that right now. I don't have a direct answer of like, when did this start or how did we get where we are today? Right. But I can tell you that it is something that either is in the DNA of a company or it is not. And what I
Yep.
mean by that is, let's use Active Campaign as an example. It is in their DNA to be very customer centric in a lot of ways. For example, and this is something that killed me that they wouldn't let me market when I was there. I really wanted to so they don't have like a specific buyer. They just don't.
Yep.
Klaviyo is eating their lunch because Klaviyo is like, we're for e-commerce, and Active Campaign is like, that's cool. We're still for everybody. And I'm like, but let's get aggressive about that. Let's be like punchy and aggressive and be like, that's mean that they're picking a person. We're better because we're, like, let's put a flag in the ground. And they're like, well, because again, like it's in the DNA of like, well, we're kind of just like neutral and bland. And that's fine. But like it's in their DNA and it's so much they have customers. Listen to this, Tommy. They have customers that still have local installs of Active Campaign. Like it's on a server
Wow.
at the company, the customer's company, and they like mail them like
Wow.
discs or something for like updates. What? What a wild!
What?
Like, let me say that. Can I please say that? And they're like, no, like that's not. We don't want to like some. I don't know, but I'm just like, this is so funny and rad. Like, what a weird. We're
Yeah.
also like a Midwest company. Like, could you be more Midwestern about this? Like, it's just so
Right.
good to me. Anyways, but like that's in their DNA and it spreads through the whole company to their own detriment, in my opinion. Right? to their own detriment, they are stuck on this. Like, this is how we think. And the CEO, I don't know why I wouldn't be able to say this. The CEO still reads like they send out NPS stuff to customers, and that guy reads every single one of those. Everyone. And it's like, that's the stuff that I'm talking. It's like, that's how that looks and feels. Like, even to our own detriment, we are going to refuse to tell customers we can't serve you anymore. We are going to refuse, like, we're going to stay, like, our CEO, who is running $150 million a year plus business with, I think we're over like 1,000 employees at some point, like, global company, offices in Ireland and Australia and all this stuff. And it's like, oh no, I still want to read all these like NPS things. Like, that's an important part of his day. So I think that is like one example of it, but like, customer centric is either in your DNA or it is not, because it has to be a part of everything. It's a part of how you hire. It's how you do your marketing org. I listened to a podcast recently with Megan Anderson, who's at Jasper now, and she explained that like, they have two buyers. They have like the enterprise buyer and then like the general use for everything buyer. So they literally organize their marketing team that way. They have a team for the enterprise buyer and a team for that. And those people just hyper focus on that buyer. And I'm like, that feels customer centric to me. So instead of it being,
Right.
well, we have a brand team and then we have a design team and then we have a, organic search team. Like, no. Like, it's about, literally our org chart is our customers. That's cool. Like, there's ways that this like feels. That's about the point where I am in the exploration though, of like, and I think it's a hard thing to do. Like, it can't be some junior marketer being like, I think we could be more customer centric. Like, it has to be how you build the product, how you do support, how you do all of these sorts of things.
The idea that a business is focusing on their individual segments, because I know I've been in this case, this instance before too, where it's been, let's start focusing on, we want to do different verticals. We want to do restaurants. We want to do automotive. We want to do, publishing, whatever, right? And it's the same group of people who are just going, okay, well, now what are other people saying about this, and how do we remix that and, put our own little spin on it? But nobody's actually talked to any of these people, and then it's hard to like reflect back what the issues are, what the challenges are. So you end up, for me, it's all about not shouting into the void first, and second, not insulting your reader's intelligence or your viewer's intelligence. And you see that so much where it's like, you can just assume some people know stuff coming into this. And if you don't have those conversations, you don't know what that baseline knowledge is. Mm-hmm. So I think that's...
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Like, if you were to sell into legal,
yeah,
and they were like, and you're talking about how like your software will like help them get more cases and more cases and more cases. And you just keep using this word cases, which makes sense. Like, you're a writer, they want more cases. Except they're not trial lawyers. They don't have cases. They have clients and they're on retainer.
Right.
And you haven't even talked to, like, it's just, if your whole content strategy has come out of some like SEMrush keywords, like, we've lost the plot a little bit.
Right.
And and it's not, I'm not smarter than anybody. I'm literally walking you through all the dumb crap that I've done. There's no judgment if you're like, oh God, like, yeah, our content strategy is we exported the SEMrush keywords, sorted for like highest volume and lowest difficulty, and now that's our content strategy. I get that. Like, I've been there, right? And then I had a smart CMO go, is this what you did here? And I was like, I'm dumb. Sorry. I'll fix it immediately. Yeah, you're right. Like, I didn't do any thinking outside of a keyword export from an SEO tool. Like, and that happens.
Right.
So hopefully people can skip that step, Well,
and like, why are people searching for these things? Like, it's not just a matter of hitting the thing. It's like actually meditating or having that conversation on.
Yeah. From the SEO world, the number of people that actually, they're like, well, the search intent is like buyer intent or education intent. Yeah, man. But like, take 3 seconds to figure out what people want. I wrote an article a long time ago about digital marketing skills. And I thought, Tommy, that like people wanted, because if you Google digital marketing skills, this is still true today as it was like 3 or 4 years ago. It's like top 10 digital marketing skills, top 11, top 14, the And it's literally just numbers straight down the search results. And I'm like, all right, boom, people want a
Yeah.
listicle. That's what they want. And then my brain went, Brendan, nobody wants a listicle ever. Nobody wants that. And then I took some time. I looked at, and I didn't even have anybody to really talk to because this was like a very generic topic, but I just looked at the Google autocomplete and it was like
Yep.
digital marketing skills 2019, digital marketing skills for resume, digital marketing skills career change. And I went, oh, these are people who hate their job that are trying to learn digital marketing to change their life. I've done that. I am the perfect
Right.
person to write this. And then you title your article, Three Digital Marketing Skills That Changed My Career, parenthesis, and my life. That gets clicks.
Yep.
That resonates because it's what they actually wanted, right? And if you have somebody to talk to, like customers, do that for sure.
Now, there was a third
Yep.
area there. We're going a little over time on the format, but
I apologize.
okay.
I'm a little extra.
No. This is perfect. To me, this is the best thing. Like, one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we've got. I want to talk about customer centric. One of the biggest pieces of feedback we've gotten when we send out the post show survey is like, I wish the show would go longer. So, here we are.
Can I give people one more
So-
thing? Can I give people like one more option just with the customer thing?
Yeah, for sure.
I started calling this like the 3S strategy, but it's just finding regular times to meet. Like if you have a team and an organization and stuff, talk to, and if you don't, if you're watching this because you're a freelancer or something like that, do this too. Like make this a part of your offer. Everybody loves this because it makes the stuff way better. The 3S's: sales, success, and support. Find time to meet with those people. Find somebody from sales, build like call it an advisor, an internal advisory board or whatever you want. Meet with those people. They will have insights into the customers that you won't have, right? Also building, like I said, the internal advisory board, build a customer advisory board. I couldn't, when I was at Active Campaign, I'm like, can I please talk to customers? And they're like, well, we already have a customer marketing team. And I'm like, okay, I don't care. And I just posted on LinkedIn. I'm like, who do I know that uses Active Campaign? And like 30 people commented. And I'm like, you're my customer advisory board now. I'm going to ask you about the stuff I'm thinking of doing. And you can tell me if it's like lame. And I know that sounds silly, but I got really strong insights out of that.
That's fantastic. That was one of our main things
that gets left out. Yeah.
Well, that was the main thing that we had done at Shopify. Like, it was because I was there. So I was first marketing hire, employee 14, and then by the time I left, there was like 300 employees. Right? Well, yeah, I mean, it is. But like being part of that at hypergrowth, as the only person, one of the major things that I had done was I had on a regular monthly cadence with the customer success team, I sent out, a form that said, hey, nominate a customer. Then we'd talk to the customers, right? And then we'd talk so we were having a conversation with our support team on a regular basis. We were having conversations with our customers on a regular basis. And then we would use those with the sales team, and we'd ask the sales team, like, hey, what narratives are you seeing right now? Because a lot of that was outbound sales. So what narratives are you seeing? What are the challenges that you're having? And then how can we kind of flip the narrative on some of these conversations? Because we now know that these are the things. And that's why Shopify Plus specifically grew as fast as it did at that time. I have to believe it's because we were dialed in to everything that everybody was saying. And when we did something like our industry reports, the narrative, the subtext of those reports was, hey, we might not have all the same features, but we know your market better than anybody else. Yeah. And because of that, these are the things that we're capitalizing on. This is what's happening in the next 5 years. Now, if you can't take advantage of that because your platform, your platform's getting in your way. And that was like all because of all the conversations we were having and just sort of reflecting everything back to those people. Okay, so you had said we've nailed one, we've nailed two. What's number three?
So I think outside of like taking it out of a silo, talking, like being customer centric, talking to customers, the third one is the thing you mentioned kind of at the beginning, which is moving yourself out of the copycat commodity content world. I talked to a CMO the other day, and she used the word creative instead of content. And I was like, that just elevates the craft, right? Like if you're asking your team to produce creative, versus content. That's like an interesting way. You're not Jedi mind tricking people really, but like just
Yeah.
shows you're having a really high standard. But it's this idea of like content IP, like creating intellectual property. A lot of times, the mistake I see people making, especially SaaS and software companies, is they're like, yeah, IP, strategic narrative, we're going to create a category. And it's like, like, can you imagine if Shopify was like, we're small business revenue success enablement? What?
What does that
What?
mean?
Active Campaign was like, we're customer experience automation. Y'all, most people don't even know we do email. Like, can we just do like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, it's this huge company.
Yeah.
I knew I had an opportunity ahead of me when I went from an agency that was a B2B SaaS marketing agency to Active Campaign. And when I told people I was going to Active Campaign, half of the replies were like, that's awesome, cool company. And half of them were like, who? And I was like, look, we're a $150 million a year company, and even SaaS marketers have never heard of Active Campaign. We have some opportunity. Right? And we spent a lot of time like creating this category that nobody wanted or needed. And it was like, that's not it. We would have been better off taking all of that work, creating IP and making IP around our customers' problems by naming the problems and creating the name that becomes the phrase everybody uses to describe it. The solution becomes less relevant, right? Like, that's just good marketing, is like, you gave me the words to describe my problem, thing I felt and seen for years and could never articulate. You gave that to me. So it's instant trust.
Yeah, we talked about that before when we did the pre-interview, was if you can name the problem, if you can articulate the problem better than somebody else can, and it's like on the tip of somebody's tongue, that's generally the thing that shows, hey, you understand this. Like, I'm going to trust you, even if your solution is half baked at the time. There's like level of trust where it's like, oh yeah, we know you're headed in the right direction because you clearly know the problem that we're having. And I think that's brilliant. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next portion of the show, which is, we've got all the information. We've done the customer centricity, right? We've understood what we're trying to do for an IP. We've been talking to people about that. Now, what's the process from ideation all the way to launch or publication?
Yeah, so when I start looking through stuff like this and I think about like planning and creating great content, I have to be honest with you, I'm very spoiled at this point. Being inside like the big machine at a company is a little different, and I can reflect on that as well. But a lot of this comes from things I can't not say. Like, there are things inside of me where I'm just like, this has to get out. Inside of a big company, we can be as idealistic as we want. And I'm really glad I had the experience being at Active Campaign, because being in a non-leadership role, like, with the best of intent, like, it really is, it's either in the DNA or it isn't to do certain things. And we did a lot of like great stuff. We had a lot of like really cool, like big campaigns and things like that I was really proud of. But like, a lot of the things I wanted to do just were not on anybody's radar. And I personally am a pain in the ass when you're like, yeah, we can do that next year. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, let me work. Especially when I have something inside of me and I'm like, this has to get out. This has to be a big deal. So that's like a big part of it. It's just like, has this been rattling around for a while? So I think like if we want to like actually make this like the process, right? You can already tell from my personality if you're watching this, right? Like, it's pretty aggressive. I'm pretty punchy, spiky points of view, however you want to describe that. Like, I love that stuff. I love really aggressive copy. It is how I think about things. My love language is words of affirmation. I look at my Readwise. Do you know what Readwise is? Have you ever used it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It shows me my five Kindle highlights every day. I will read my Readwise app and like get emotional and like a lot of dust in the room, a lot of misty eyes. Like, just words mean a lot. Like, Readwise gives me 3 Brene Brown quotes in a row. I am done. Like, I need a break. right? So words
Yeah.
mean a lot to me. So I'm trying, and it's funny because even though words mean a lot to me, what I'm realizing is like I love language and words, but I love ideas even more. Half of my stuff goes live with typos and things like that. Like I have typos in all my emails and all my LinkedIn posts. Like I just have a thing inside of me that I have to get out. So as I'm planning
Yeah.
through that, I really take like a copywriting approach. This is a thing that I would say like initially I felt like social media kind of broke my brain, but things like LinkedIn and Twitter threads, um, I started to really formulate a lot of my work around like hook, story, offer, right? Can I hook you in and get you in the first little bit to be like, I'm gonna read this whole thing, I'm gonna watch this whole video, I'm gonna listen to this whole podcast, right? Then can I tell you a story, right? We're just naturally, I like telling stories. This is how I enjoy consuming things. I think we're all, I don't know, there's probably research on this that like it's how we're wired from like some sort of like primal beginning to like attach the story. There's probably a smarter explanation.
Tons mirror neurons, and yeah,
Thank you.
I could go all
Say
day on
smart
that.
things. I'm just like
Yeah, yeah,
science.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but like
exactly.
it, so like that, and then like the offer is just like allowing like I'm offering you to do the thing you came here to do, right? There's also like
Yep.
educate, empower, entertain. There's like a lot of things that I think through, like frameworks I use in my head. But the real goal is like a copywriting approach of like the goal of the first sentence is to get you to read the second. The goal of the second is to get you to read the third. Not all of my stuff succeeds at this, but I want to keep pulling you down. I think there's a place for large scale skimmable content, right? We're going to do an epic guide to this, and we have a table of contents. You choose your own adventure, kind of thing. Like I love that too. But like as much as possible, especially if you're like, I'm pretty sure most of the people are gonna read the opening paragraph. That's where I want to spend all my time, and that's a big piece. Like I think a lot of times we worry about the body content, and
Yep.
then we it's almost like an afterthought, like intro and conclusion. And conclusion, people just write conclusion in the header tag, and I'm like, oh no, what a missed
Right.
opportunity. Like could have like really said something there with some big text. So like that's a lot of how I think about it, in terms of like planning and everything. The other thing, I mentioned it earlier, on a grand scale, planning for me has kind of changed. And we can talk about, I have like an actual framework that'll be helpful for people here in a second. But I've also like,
Yeah, actually, I kind of want to get into that,
cool.
where it's like when you're developing IP. Let's like really zero in on that. When we're developing an IP, what's that process look
Okay.
like?
So I start with like problems. This comes back to like my philosophy on things, like talking to people, like really keeping my ear to the ground. People are like I have a community. It's called All In. It's only for in-house SaaS marketers who want to grow their career,
Yep.
which is just like a very small Venn diagram of the whole thing, right? Because like that's exactly who I want to talk to, and that's whose insights I want to glean, and like the conversations I want to be a part of, right? I made a clubhouse for me and my friends basically. And that sort of thing, like just keeping my ear to the ground, reading all the comments, being very thoughtful about what I consume and how I consume it and where I interact with people. I have like one Facebook group and maybe 3 Slack groups where I read everything in there. Everything. I want to know all the questions that people, I want to know what they're struggling with. I want to think through, like, I love that sort of stuff as a part of my process. Um, from there, when I feel like I have a good handle on a problem, part of me thinks through, how do I solve this, right? And do solutions already exist? If there's a great framework that already exists, or there's a great, even sometimes it's like a technology solution, right? A software solution or something. Like, what is
Yeah.
there solutions that already exist? How do they articulate that for people? When those things don't exist, especially when nobody's like really phrased it before. And what I mean by that is like I love like 2 or 3 word phrases, typically things that either like rhyme or sound similar, or something like they both start with the same word. I'll give you an example. Like I worked with a digital asset management solution. They're what you use after you outgrow Google Drive and Dropbox. E-commerce is huge because they
Yeah.
have 10,000 pieces of creative flying around all the time. And it's like, what one do we use? You need some organization. But we talked about that like that, and we kind of phrased it content chaos, right? You have this content
Yep.
chaos, and it's just, or even we talked about using the phrase commerce chaos, like to really lean in on that. But like, that sort of thing, like, all right, we just want to like give it, and we're going to use that phrase relentlessly, right? Because that in a Andy Raskin strategic narrative kind of way, we exist to help you navigate this new world, right, that exists, or this new problem.
Yep.
So we need to name that stuff, and then we're just going to relentlessly talk about this until the point that like commerce chaos becomes how e-commerce store owners talk about having too much creative, right? Because nobody's named it before. So I start there, like thinking like just brainstorming. It's a lot of like Mad Libs and me Googling synonyms and stuff and saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Like, does this sound cool when somebody says it to somebody else, or does this sound weird and confusing? That sort of stuff. From there, I walk through like kind of, I think it's like a 5-part framework, right? We would think about like what is like a piece of content like that we would create around the problem. Just explaining it's a problem. There are people who are not aware this is a problem, right? Maybe it's not a problem for them yet. Maybe it's just something they haven't encountered. It's silly. Like sometimes as marketers, we're like, well, we don't care about the problem unaware people. Like those, we want to start at the bottom of the funnel. And I get that. But having a really strong point of view and being like, this is a problem that we exist to solve, like that's something I think more people could benefit from. So like, let's name the problem. Let's talk about the first roadblock to the problem. That's a thing I think a lot of marketers skip is, all right, cool. Here's the problem and here's the solution. Mistake. Give them, if you educate people on the first roadblock they'll encounter as they start to solve this problem, they'll go, oh, you do understand, because they're probably dealing with it because they are trying to solve that problem. They're like,
right.
Okay, cool. You get my problem. You gave me words for it. Oh, that's what the second piece, like that's what I'm dealing with right now. Well, you really get it. Right? Then give them a template or a framework to solve the problem. And then I really think through like, call it like a high level, interesting, almost like roundup. I'm using words people are familiar with, but like just gives an example of like somebody that you've maybe never worked with or somebody interesting that is currently solving that problem. And then the last one is you can do like a case study, like we've helped customer X solve that problem. And it takes people through a really, and that's what's awesome is you're like, all right, cool. Now we have these like 5 kind of pillars, and then we can do the next problem. And if you we solve these 2 or 3 problems, all of a sudden you have like true IP around that. It's like we created this phrase. Yes, everybody uses it now, but it's very much ours. We are the ones that, and everybody kind of knows that. That is really, really powerful.
It's kind of the stuff that Jay Akonzo talks about, where it's resonance overreach, right? And you can't get to that point if you haven't gone through these steps that you're talking about, right? It's very difficult to resonate if you don't understand who you're trying to resonate with. If you can't do the research to reflect this stuff back and create properties that are around these problems. And that's one of the main reasons why I started the show. It's because for a senior level person, you've got all the HubSpots of the world, right? But they dominate all the search engines, and I'm not searching for a lot of the problems that I might have because I don't trust that there's going to be anything, right? And I don't have anybody whose shoulder I can look over.
It's the SEO in me. I'm sorry, Tabard.
Yeah, no. But I mean, we're all guilty of it.
But
right?
I do the same thing. Yeah, I'm not going to Google. Everybody's like, Chat GPT is going to have it. I'm not going to trust. Chat GPT is built on data from 3 years ago. Like, I don't trust that to give me guidance as a senior level career, content marketer. Like,
right.
I need this. I need this dialogue in shows like yours to exist.
Yeah, I mean, you need to be able to look over somebody's shoulder, and like I wanted to look over my peers' shoulders and understand their process and where their heads are at, and all of these things that you don't even necessarily get out of even other formats, right? So it's like, how do we do something cool? All right, so now let's talk about, you've got everything developed, you're getting into the process, you've started to create the thing, right? You know what you're creating. What is your pregame before you start to narrow it down and make it its own thing?
This is so funny. So it's my quirks. It's usually like put my glasses on, and you would think I meant these glasses. No, I actually end up wearing 2 pairs of glasses a lot of times, and I walk around like this. This is just like, I like them, so I wear them. They are actually like blue blocker glasses, but my wife pointed out, if you've been watching this long, we've done our job, but also, I hope this is funny. it's a reward. These are also like really dirty and have a really bad reflection. So like I just always wear them like that.
Yeah.
So I put on my 2 glasses, right? I almost always have like some sort of like beverage with me. Usually get super caffeinated more than I need to be. It just ramps the angst up all the way. Always music on, always. Like I like some sort of noise. I remembered I listened to a podcast with Matt Mullenweg from WordPress, and he said he listened to one song on repeat over and over and over. And the words, the lyrics fade into the background. You stop hearing the lyrics. And I started doing that, and I have found that to be incredibly powerful for me, of just like put one song on, hit repeat, and within a couple loops, you're like, that's not it. Like, that's not the one. Yeah. But if you find one...
What are you listening to?
Huh?
What are you listening to?
Right now?
Yeah.
That's such a good question. I'm so glad you asked. There is a song called The Downfall of Us All by A Day to Remember. Okay. And it starts with them like singing the bass line, which is just like, they also open all their shows with it. I didn't know any of this. It just came up randomly on Spotify one time, and I'm like, all right, that's the thing. But I also wrote for probably like 6 months to, what is it called? The Star is Born, that the Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
The main song of that, easily like my top played song of the year.
Oh, that's a beautiful song too.
And just it depends on like what the mood is in. Like I think I wrote a lot of really sad stuff listening to like White Iverson by Post Malone. Like it's just, I have like a couple songs that if we go back into, this is why I actually love Spotify. Like if I go back to my like top songs of the year, I can instantly tell you what the writing songs are from that year. Yeah. And also a lot of like lo-fi hip hop. There's a channel that is streaming on YouTube. It looks like it's like an anime girl, like lo-fi.
Anybody who listens to lo-fi, you know exactly who you're talking about here. It's the number one channel.
And I put it on. I have a TV right here, like a big TV that's for like video games and stuff. But mainly, it just plays that on a loop. Can I tell you something really cool that I'm really excited about real quick?
Yeah.
So Nissan, listen to this. When I go to watch that, if you go on, if you listen to lo-fi, you probably already know this. So Nissan runs an ad before that video, before that streaming channel, right? And it is a long form. It is a woman driving in a car with lo-fi music behind it. But in the background, every once in a while, she'll pass like you can see on the car's handle, it says Nissan, or on the steering wheel, steering wheel. But in the background, every once in a while, she passes a Nissan billboard. But there's also like giant robots on the horizon and like just cool anime stuff that goes in. They also have a 6-hour version. I'm going to do something about this. Is things I can't stop thinking about. They also have like a 6-hour version that has over 1 million plays. And it's not the ad, because the ad's only 5 or 6 minutes. But the second time it came up, I'm like, I'm going to let it ride. I'll watch the ad for 6 minutes.
Yeah.
It's good. Like, it's really good. And the ad is the thing I came here for. You know what I mean? Like, it's really cool. Where I'm like, oh, neat. Like, really, like, and I think they only do it over like a couple channels. Anyways, I think that stuff's fascinating. We're talking about content. Like, when the ad is better than the content I want to consume, like, that's cool to me.
I've started to get really mad at different brands because I listen to a lot of meditation stuff at night, and a lot of meditation, a lot of hypnosis. Like, I'm really into that now, just because I want to like get as much rest as possible. And I get really mad. The opposite of this is I get really mad at like SEMrush commercials, for example, coming on. I'm like listening to this thing and I'm like nice and relaxed, just about to have an out-of-body experience, all of this other stuff. And then it's like, do you have manual busy work? And I'm like, stop it.
We automate.
Stop it. You want to talk about...
And you're like, oh God, no.
Right. Yeah, I'm like, no. I'm trying not to think about work.
All the time. Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. The message match, that's what it's all about. All right, so we're gonna run the content harmony mid-roll here. While we're doing that, if you want, or actually, I'm gonna pull up the screen on my end, and we'll take it from there. While we wait for the edit, I wanted to introduce you to one of my new favorite tools. It's called Content Harmony, and here's why it's my new favorite. First, I hate writing content briefs just because of how much time it takes. If you want to get the information you need, you have to bounce between so many different tools. You've got the keyword data from one tool. You need to use Google to see who you're going up against. You need to know what their domain authority is. You have to figure out the average word count. What's the keyword density? What are the search trends? And so much more. And let's be honest, we don't do it all because it takes too long. Now that's where Content Harmony comes in. First, all you have to do is upload your key phrases, and its AI-assisted tool will show you at a glance the search intent of each key phrase, the average word count across all the top ranking results, how optimized the average piece is, the average links to each piece, and the average domain authority across all the competitors. And when you click into a key phrase, you get even more detailed information, such as the search intent of each key phrase, the age range of the ranking results, the SERP features, and the keyword seasonality and trends. You can also do a topic analysis and see the keyword density that you should be targeting, the outline of each article that ranks in the SERP, questions people are actually asking with information from Google, Quora, Reddit, and more, and the common external links that people are citing, your top internal link targets, high authority resources, and recent news to keep your results fresh. Also, you can get way more detailed information on each of your SERP competitors. You can see what images are ranking and what videos are also going out there. And here's the cool part. All you have to do is click any of these elements and it will automatically populate a brief, which you can then share with anyone. And finally, once you get the first draft back, you can run it through their content grader and see just how well optimized the article is. Seriously, I just started using it and it's saving me at least 2 hours a brief and has consolidated 4 of my most commonly used tools. Now, if you want to try it out for yourself, you can run 10 reports for $10. Also, you can help support the channel and get 2 months of free bonus credits when you purchase the full plan through my link. All right, now let's jump back into the edit. Welcome back to the stream. And now we have the article up. The article is Steal This 1-Minute Hack for Creating Truly Unique Content. Folks, we will be putting the link to this document in the chat if you want to follow along. So, first impression of this piece before we get into the granular edits. What was your first impression overall?
I hated it for the first half, and then I really liked it. Like the first half of me reading it, I was like, this is my nightmare. And then I was like, oh, okay, I see what happened. It was the Sean Blanda thing that we talked about earlier, where it was like, oh, you said it. You just like hit it down here, right? So yeah. I love it. I think it's really smart. I think they just buried the lead, which happens so much, right? I have been privileged again. Like that's always something I'm looking for if I'm editing somebody else's stuff, where I'm like, I feel like you probably said something really great. It's just down here a little bit. I just got to find it, and it's literally just like copy and paste it up, you know?
Yeah. That's generally my most common piece of feedback when I edit is cut the first 500 words. Just it's clearing people's throats. That's usually what happens. And quick stat, and then we'll actually start editing. But quick stat, did you know that the average adult reads nonfiction at 238 words per minute? So
I did not know that. Is that fast?
No. I mean, think about this for a second, right? How long does it take you to get to the good stuff? Right? Did it take you a minute to get to the good stuff? Did you consume 238 words before you were like, oh, okay, this is good? Like,
I want to say I might have even, I don't know if I put that in here, but I know as I was editing this, I actually did. So that's so funny. There's a comment in here where I like actually checked like how many words did I read to get to this point and put it in one of the comments.
Yeah. All right, let's jump in. What do we got here?
Cool. So I think like where I start with this, I think starting just right at the top, I love language, like steal this 1-minute hack. I know some people hate it, and they are smart people that I am friends with and respect and have probably already said their names today. But like some people love it. I just came up in a different world. Like I came up in that like online marketing world. So I love it. Steal this hack, swipe this, all that sort of stuff. Give me it. Give me all the like, it feels scammy and spammy, right?
Yeah.
But like, just give me it. I love it. I can't get over it. So I like that stuff a lot. And I think it does what I learned at Active Campaign. Those like the curiosity levers. If people don't know what curiosity levers are, I won't belabor the point. I'm going to do a curiosity lever to you about it. Go listen to Benjamin Elias's episode, or the show when you had him on. Watch that one. He talks about it in there as well. That's in. I literally rewatched his episode because it's great. But like, go in there. He'll explain the whole thing. But one curiosity lever is an open loop, and I like that. Like, steal this 1 minute hack. You're letting me know how long it's going to take to do. You're creating an open loop of like, I wonder what it is. Now I need to know this thing, and it feels like a very low bar to entry. It's a 1 minute hack. Now it doesn't say the article's 1 minute, but it gives me an idea of like, this is going to be pretty quick to implement. I'll probably get a quick return on my time consuming this. And like I said, it also makes it feel like I should know this, but I don't. And you want to answer that for yourself. Like, is this a thing I already know? So I like that.
Awesome. All right. We're going to move to the next one here. Let's see. So
I did mention at the top too, that like the 1 minute hack for creating truly unique content, that left, like, there has to be another, like, give me some IP there, right? Give me something that creates a second loop. People on YouTube are great with this. They'll open one loop, and before they've closed the first loop, they open another one. So even as they give you the satisfaction of like, now we have resolution, I now have this second conflict in my head that I need to address. So I'm going to keep watching the video. I don't think we should all become media companies. I don't think we should all be Mr. Beast, but he's like one of the best at it if you ever wanted an example of it. But like, I would have loved more there. Like how to create truly unique content. You can't make that promise with like a super generic title. Right. Like, you need something. If it's truly unique content, you make that true. Like, we get into this like weird meta thing.
Yeah.
Content. It's hard, but like, that's a promise we have to make,
We had a article that we did a while ago, and it was like, the article itself was about improving captions and alt and like accessibility, and then the article itself wasn't accessible. Like, it didn't practice a lot of what it preached.
Yep.
It was like they didn't have the alt text in there where it was supposed to be, like all of that. And I thought that was really interesting. So, all right, cool. So we've got the next thing here. I do wish there was something here. Open up a curiosity loop. Okay, cool. Let's see. Now what do we got? I'm not sure who wrote the book on content.
So I don't know who gave this tip out that we got to start with a stat. Always with the freaking stats. You're killing me. You're killing me with these. Everybody's just starting with a stat, and they're always linking out to wherever, like they Googled email marketing statistics, and they led with the stat, and then the first sentence has a link to the source. Link to your sources is fine. Don't link out to some garbage email marketing statistics page in the first sentence of your blog post. Like, don't send me away. You got me here. Make me want to do this, and I cannot tell you how much, like, you're literally just writing a stat. You found a stat to back up what you already want to say. And I also think, like, I want to, like, hook story, right?
Yeah.
A statistic is neither of those things, unless it is something that is truly going to, like, knock my socks off, right? Like, give me something that, like, sticks the knife in and twists it a little bit. If you're not going to give me IP, it's got to be a stat where I'm going to be like, how the hell is that possible, right? Like, tell me that, like, within two years, 1 out of 5 skyscrapers is doomed to collapse. What? Like, I go in skyscrapers. I don't want any. Within 2 years, 1 out of 5 is going to collapse. Like, I need to know, right? Like, my life, like, up the stakes a little bit. Stats do not up the stakes necessarily.
It's funny, we had Ryan Law on early in the show, and he's from Foundation Inc., in case anybody's not familiar, and now he's at Reforge. And one of the things that he was saying was that if you're gonna use statistics, right, don't use them first. Don't use them as a jumping off point for your thought. Instead, have your thought and then use it to support your thought. He said it's very weak, and he was editing my article, which made this even more fun. But it was interesting because it's like, it's what's informing what, right? Is the statistic informing you, or is the statistic backing you up? And that makes a huge difference in your credibility and your own authority. So,
Yep. And I
yeah.
think we're just like lazy about it, especially if you're marketing to marketers. Like, we all know you just Googled something, something statistics and then pulled it from that first article that came up. Like,
Yep.
give me a unique data point, survey somebody, ask some people,
Yep.
like, figure out, like, work with 2 or 3 influencers on LinkedIn to get a ton of people around a poll that one of them posts, and then you all comment and everybody sees it, and we'll get like 200 responses or something like that. Pay $50 and ask a community of your audience to get them all to do a survey, like sponsor a survey, right? Get some
Yeah.
like unique data that's interesting and new versus just like this. And I also think I explained this, more a little further, but like the idea, we're already off to the wrong premise with this article. More noise is not the issue here. The idea, like, oh, there's so much content being created, there's so much. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think more
Right.
noise just makes the signal stand out more. The more generic shows about content marketing makes this show even like shine even brighter. It's not what you would like. Logic would dictate like, oh, there's more, so it's more confusing. And I think we passed that tipping point a while ago,
Right.
right? Where like the stuff that's good, like the right people recommend it to the right people, and it's you know, you find it. You can find
Yeah.
the good.
Well, and you've got second mover advantage in that area too. Like you've got, it's you see what's out there, and then you can pick it apart and do better. And that's if we're doing 1 minute hacks for completely creating truly unique content, like that's what you're doing, right?
Yeah, it's not a volume thing. They didn't ask the question we asked earlier of like, what is customer centric content? It just felt like, I don't want to be judgmental, but it felt lazy. It felt like we could
Yeah.
elevate this a little bit because like it just felt like the person writing this didn't sit long enough with like which is so funny. They took the easy way out in this intro versus wrestling with like, why is this so hard? You're writing an article
Right.
about why it's so hard. Be in that, like, ugh, like
Right.
give me the angst. Like, this is hard. They're right, but what is it that makes it so hard? Like, I would have loved more of that and less of this. Like, oh, it's just that a blog post is published every 0.8 seconds or something.
Right. Right. And I love this right here, your comment. Let's throw this trend immediately into the trash.
Immediately into the trash. Immediately.
All right, let's keep going. So how are you supposed to stand out in this overwhelming content glut overabundance? What do we got here?
Well, I think that was kind of to my point of like, it's really, for me at least, like, it's not the content glut overabundance. It's not that there's too much. It's like there are other things that you could have done to, again, like, you're gonna hear me use the same phrasing, but like, raise the stakes here, right? Like, we are not like this. The issue with generic content, like the reason we have to create truly unique content is like, frankly, like we have free robots now that can write generic stuff. Like, you don't even have to pay 2 cents a word or a half a cent a word anymore. Like,
Yeah.
also people act like that's new. Like, we haven't been just like churning out tons of garbage for 2 decades now. But like, the overabundance doesn't get worse. It's just more stuff that we already ignore now.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's even an issue. Like, I'm not paying. People are like, what are you going to do about, all these AI writing tools? And I'm like, I don't think, like, if they're just using the tool to do everything and there's no human in the loop and they're not using it as an assistive tool, I'm not worried. Like, it's
Right.
just, it's just
They're
more
just going to
copycat.
produce the same thing that's already been produced. Like that group of people who do that too, who are just remixing the remixes, they're in trouble. Like,
Absolutely.
because the robot can just do the work for them in that case. That's what today's article is all about. Is there a chance they already know this before they get here?
Yeah, like, it's like you told them what you're going to tell them, then you're telling them you told them. Like, that's fine for like 10th grade speech class. But I think we can like really, this is your fault, Tommy. You told me that like aggressive takes were allowed.
No, it's good. That's what we love.
As much fire as
Bring it.
It's just like, this is what you told me what the article's about, but I already read the title and you already made me slog through a yeesh in here and stuff. Like, I'm good. I know what it's about. Don't tell me this is what this is about.
Right.
I know, I'm reading it. Like you can just like delete that. Similar to like the next edit where it's like, you know, we can kind of, oh, this is where I made the note of like, I've already read 142 words. I've read this for a minute. You promised me a 1 minute hack. I have read this for 1 minute and you have still not told me the hack. Now the article's longer than the solution. And that, like, people are gonna dip out. This is like,
Yep.
there's nothing special here, right? So I think that's kind of like, in similar to like the section I crossed out there right below it. Don't say which, like, okay, let's start by asking the all important question. Yes, let's, but delete that line. Just ask the question, right? And also, this is the question that we've wanted to answer the whole time. This is the most important thing. Like, what pulls in the leads that you need, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you can even have even in an oversaturated market, that's good. That just gives context to say, like, I know what's going on. I'm in this thing too with you, right? Same as the next part. Don't get mad at me for saying this, but now this is 3 times in the intro. Now I'm starting to get pissed. This is 3 times in the intro. You're saying what you're saying. Just
Yeah.
say it. That's the way words work. You don't have to tell me, like, don't get me wrong. Like, there is time to say what you're about to say, right? Like, if I know this sounds silly. This is actually things I think about. When I'm in a group of people and everybody's kind of talking, I'll use like things like this. I think I stole this from Kevin Hart, the way he tells stories.
Mm-hmm.
If he's in a group of people, he'll be like, hey, listen to this story. Listen to this story. And he will keep saying that shit until everybody kind of chills out and is ready to listen to the story. Because you don't want to start telling a story while 3 other people are talking.
Right.
There's a time and place for that, but they are reading your article. There's no noise here. They are all in. You don't have to keep asking them for their attention, right? If anything, you're making it worse, right? So I think that, like, there's a lot, like, there's a lot in here already that, like, the answer for this is just like delete all that stuff. Like you said, delete the first 500 words. Like, there was a lot of throat clearing happening here. Again, and I say this with so much empathy of, like, you already know, when we'll see here in a second in the rest of this article, this author already knows what they want to say and they say it really well.
Yep.
We could throw all of this intro out for the most part.
All right, let's get to the part where you actually like the piece.
Okay, hold on. Can I just, like, this is,
Yeah.
they said, like, I don't mean to be Captain Obvious here. And I'm like, this is, like, it's more. And then I think the last thing is, like, it even says, I think this is where, when you are writing, like, let's break it down. The solution to crafting unique, compelling content is actually really simple. It's something you're already doing in your business. The solution is positioning. This is where I got to the point where I was like, oh, you do know what you want to say here. Because I was really nervous at this point. I was like, Tommy, am I just going to be like a total a-hole on the show? But, like, am I just going to be the worst person on this show? And I literally said there, you buried the lead. This is fucking great, right? Great curiosity lever that we could have used earlier. Like, one of those curiosity levers for people that have paused the show, watch the Benjamin episode and come back. Is a great curiosity lever is you used to know this thing, but you've probably forgotten it. That's such a cool way of, like, oh my God, what did I forget? And it also doesn't insult the reader by being like, I'm smart and you're dumb. And
which is a big issue, by the way. Big issue. I hate that. When people are insulting readers' intelligence.
I have such an issue. I have noticed this happens a lot with technical content and technical marketers who are very, like, just matter of fact with people. And they don't deploy any empathy. And that's, like, really hard. Like, this is why I'm, like, comfortable. I would never give this kind of feedback. If I was, like, somebody's editor, this would be delivered verbally. I would never write this, like, harsh stuff. But I needed you to know what was coming.
Yeah.
Have me on the show so you could be like, Brendan, delete that. But, like, so I think that's, like, a big piece of this is, like, I want to deploy a lot of empathy. And you're absolutely right. Like, there's so much out there where people are just like, I'm a big brain smart boy and everybody else is dumb, and come here because I'm smart and you're dumb. They insult. There's people, especially in my world, of, like, B2B SaaS agencies and consultants, that is their whole go-to-market of
Mm-hmm.
like, they miss the like old way doesn't work, new way is better. That's great. But you exist to help people cross the bridge. You
Right.
don't exist to stand in the new way and scream back at the old way that they're dumb and bad for being there. Right.
Yeah.
So that sort of like most people are coming to content for some sort of transformation. They expect at some point they will be somewhat different by the end of consuming this. Be their guide, right? Don't just be like screaming at them from, the other side of a cliff being like, you're stupid for still being over there. It doesn't motivate people.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
love this.
I mentioned on here too, like this lead that they buried, like this positioning changed my life. Like absolutely. And like if I even wrote my own, like if I was writing an article about positioning, I'd be like, I was a broke $40,000 a year teacher, and I transitioned that into a career making made up numbers, but like $400,000 a year content marketer. Even if you only made $100,000 a year as a content marketer, or
Yeah.
80 grand, like going from 40 to 80 grand with the thing I'm about to teach you, all of a sudden we've raised the stakes. This is going to impact me. I can pay for my kids' T-ball. I can like do all this stuff I didn't think I was going to do in my life if I know this thing. Got it. Like give them something there. Give them like
Yeah.
like how powerful this thing is, because I believe in this thing. I was really sad in the first half of the article, and I'm like, oh, this is about positioning. Oh, this is great. This can change people's lives. Like I love it at this point.
Lean into that. All
And then I
right.
did again. I did backslide a little bit. I had a little bit of a backslide moment with the image in the middle. What's that doing there? I don't like that. Doesn't add. It's just like, wait, what? And also the clock is wrong. Like it's got a timer on it. And if the timer was like 59 seconds, I'd be like, oh, I get it. It's 59 seconds because it's a 1 minute hack or something.
Right.
But it
It's 9 seconds.
It's 9 seconds, and like also it's huge. I don't know what that adds to the content. And this is something I've been pushed on a lot of, like the idea of like use visuals to pull them further down the page. Like, don't stop that. Stop that rule. That rule also goes right in the trash.
Arbitrarily. Don't use visuals arbitrarily to pull people down the page.
100. Yes. It has to like visualize something that makes a point and shows somebody, like, instead of telling you, I'm going to now show it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And get people hooked. It's another curiosity loop. That's the thing that I've always, when I was at Conversion XL, that was a big thing. Like we have to use graphs and we have to use quotes and things like that. But you're always trying to like scanning curiosity loops, creating those and trying to draw people back in, not just an image for the sake of having an image. So I love this.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think we all wrote those articles for a while where we were all just using Unsplash, like really liberally. We
were like free images.
Oh my God, we all knew. It's like the lady holding the sparkler and the two boots on the mountain. There was like, there was
The overhead of the laptop.
Right, oh, dude, there's somebody right now that is chuckling at this because they've 100% used those images. But we were all doing it. We are just looking at the front page of Unsplash and we're like, these are free, and we just scanned them all in, right? So, anyways, but like, I just want to encourage, if you're gonna like, there's nothing wrong with this. I wasn't expecting an image when I started reading. I didn't even know that we were looking at images in here, right? Sometimes you do edits before there's visuals and things like that. But I love it. Just give me something that like adds it, to my premise of like, we want to talk about how it changed your life or changed your career. Show your annual salary and give me an arrow right before it went crazy and be like, this is where I learned positioning. This is where I learned the tip I'm about to teach you. And it like, oh my gosh, like you changed your life with this, like visualize changing your life with it. That's
right. Right. All right, so we think about it. They already are.
Sorry. Like,
no, it's good. That's the type of thing.
Yeah, I am. That's how words work. Like there's a lot of like filler. I noticed that, and this is not a knock, but you're going to see these trends continue of like this meta thing where you're trying to tell people like, read this, think about it, just say the words. My brain will do that.
Right. I'll fill in the gaps on my own. Now reading this, is there an intro? Is this the intro? Can we cut everything above that? Yeah, I think so. Let's see. Okay, so
I wonder if I highlight this and we see it, how many words are above it. If it is like the 500 words of like, we could have actually just literally deleted everything above it.
Let's check this out real quick, because this usually, without a fail, is what happens. Yeah, 245 words. So,
Perfect.
yep.
We literally
So,
could have deleted all of that and just started like,
yep.
yeah, the
Average
first thing that your
person.
potential customers wonder is this. And like, is it worth my time? How is this different? Why should I care? Great. And also, but also like make that punchier,
Yeah.
you know? Um, there's a really great tip. I told you about this book before, but uh, there's a book by Chuck Palahniuk. He's my favorite author. He wrote Fight Club, amongst a myriad of other things. He has a book about writing, and he
Yep.
talks about having a writing workshop. And his writing workshop, like teacher or leader, talked a lot about going to the body. Good time to go to the body in here. And the example I gave is like, this is the thing, like when I hear that, it makes me exhale through my teeth. That is a quote from Sarah Stockdale, who runs Grow Class and my favorite newsletter called We
Yeah.
Need to
Yeah.
Talk About This. Um, the anyways, she wrote that one time, like it made me exhale through my teeth. And like, that is just like I get that feeling of
Yeah.
like you're gritting your teeth and exhaling, but it doesn't say like I was very frustrated and irritated about that. Like, no, it just went to the body, gave me in this funny thing that people do when they read things about bodies is they then do it. Like if
Yeah.
I were to read it made me exhale through my teeth, everybody who read that just exhaled through their teeth.
Yep.
Right. So now in it that does like a weird thing where like because our body's doing it, our brain goes, this is now happening to us. And all of us like you get this weird like mind meld thing happening.
Well, it's funny, and I've actually so I'm gonna pull this off of the edit for a second here, just because there's a lot more that we could talk about. But I think that
Yeah.
if anybody's reading this, or they can look through the rest of it while we're there. So it's funny you say that because I remember writing this one article very specifically, and I started with like I was nervous, right? And then blah 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 blah. And then I like rewrote it and I was just like I'm telling somebody how I feel, right? But when I went, well, what does it feel like when I'm nervous? And then I said, I'm sitting here rubbing my fingers together and tapping my middle finger on my knee, and my leg keeps bouncing. It goes for the body, and it feels, you can feel it, you can sense it. And the reason for that, right? This is the major thing. The reason for that, and I was kind of talking about this earlier, scientifically speaking, there's mirror neurons, where it's the mirroring that happens when you see something, your brain interprets it and also wants to do it too. This was a whole study on monkeys that happened. A guy was eating a banana and the monkey was watching him eat the banana, and he had a MRI hooked up to him, and the same eating centers of his brain were lit up. It's the same thing, right? You literally, your brain doesn't know the difference from the actual sensation, and it's the reason why we get immersed in video games. It's the reason why we can get hooked into good movies. It's the reason why we can get lost in a book for hours. And it's because when you're taking it to that place and not just being really heady about it, it's something that like really becomes a visceral experience for people.
I
All
love
right.
that.
Well,
Like the or also just describing things in the way people think. Like a lot of times we use
yeah.
numbers and being like the
Yep.
drive was 2 podcasts.
Yep.
Now I have more to think about. Like the drive was 2 podcasts long. Interesting.
Right.
Like that's a significant drive. That was not around the corner, right? Like
Right.
now we have some
Yeah.
idea. I love and the more color you can add to these things, and I know it's hard because we're doing like content, but the more color you can add to these things that make it read. This is why I love reading really good
Yeah.
nonfiction and really good fiction. Like you have to be a consumer of really good work. Everything I've said today, like I said, dumb stuff, me, smart stuff, other people. Like I'm just a vessel of like all these things that I've consumed and experiences I've had, and I think a lot of us are
Yeah.
to some degree, and that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. It, it's, and I think if you're creating IP, to bring it back to like everything that we've been, to sum it all up, at least from my take, is that if you're creating IP, that's the major difference. Is the IP can make you feel something. It can plant a flag in your brain. It can be an experience and not just words on a page or video on a page or whatever. Like, you want to be memorable, and the way to be memorable is to like actually hit the body. So give us let's do just a quick little wrap up. I realize we're 4:41. We're almost 2 hours on this.
Horrifically over time.
This is the longest episode we've ever had.
Sorry.
And I think that's a good thing, right? No. I think it's
great.
Wanted
longer? It's 4 hours now. Here you go.
We're just going to be here all day. My wife's like, where are you? No. So if we can just kind of summarize what we've been talking about here, how would you wrap it all up in about 30 seconds?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and this is such a hard thing to say because I know everybody working on this stuff like cares, right? You care. Yeah. You want to do a good job. It's why you got into this. You think you can do a good job. I think one of the most important things, and you've heard this as a through line throughout this entire show, has been like having people in my life where I can go, I think this is okay. Is this good? Can you tell me, is this bad? Like having those people in your corner and not feeling awkward or bad about it to edit your work, to like, or even just edit your ideas of like, I can't stop thinking about this. Tommy, I can't tell you how much I send out Loom videos where I'll record it and I immediately turn off like the public view count and then I'll send it to like 5 people, right? Because I don't want it to be like, how many people do you send this to? But like I'll send it to like people I trust where it's just like 30 seconds or a minute and I'm just like talking through an idea and people give me like the hot or not, you know, like it's great or like no thanks. That really matters. Like find those people in your life, you know, connect with them, even just build that like group of peers of like, we can talk about these things. I think like you see a lot of my philosophy of like how I think about this stuff come through. I want to also, I have to hedge on this of like, I ship a lot of bad work. Like I ship a lot, like a large volume of half-baked ideas and typos. And I am not romantic about the garbage like you're hearing. This conversation can sound like a highlight reel, right? Of like, wow, Brendan had like 6 or 7 like really interesting ideas and blah, blah, blah. I've also had like 400 terrible ones that you just don't hear today. So like there is something to be said of like just shipping a lot of stuff, even if it's just for you. And if you're getting started and you feel intimidated by that, the good news is nobody sees the bad stuff, right? Like, don't be afraid of like, if I publish this, what if people think it's terrible? Well, then they won't share it and it won't do well and nobody will see it. It's okay. That's how it works. Like they only see the good stuff, right? So like, I just want to like really encourage and empower people as we wrap up to like keep doing like good work, like hold themselves to a high standard, but not so much that it holds you back from like getting things out into the world. Like this is very much a game of repetitions. Tommy, how many articles do you think you've written and edited?
Millions and millions of words at this point.
It's wild. Like, and that there's some part of it, and I'm not trying to gatekeep this from anybody, but like, just don't like, I'm not trying to say you have to do all of that. This show exists to help you skip a lot of stupid mistakes in some ways, right? But like, there is a part of this that just does require effort, and there is a volume to that. And that's the best part, is like just being on that journey and producing a lot of stuff. So I don't know. I just really hope this has been helpful for people.
I think it's been absolutely wonderful. This is one of the more fun conversations I've ever had on the show, and don't tell the other guests that. But I think it's been.
I'll tell Jay it comes out. I'm gonna 100% tell him that you said I was better.
Oh no! Oh no!
Competitive. It's totally
well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. It's been a wonderful almost 2 hours now. But anybody who's watching this, if you want more of The Cutting Room, go to thecontentstudio.com/the-cutting-room and sign up via email over there. And you can get all the replays. We also have bonuses, exclusives that are only for people on the email list. And if you are interested in checking out Content Harmony, again, go to this link right here where you can get 2 months for free with a paid plan. So thank you again, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked that episode, please leave a comment and a like down below. And if you want to be notified about future episodes, please go to thecontentstudio.com/thecuttingroom, enter your email address. You'll also get replays and other exclusive bonuses. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.